Thank you very much, Eric, and thank you all for taking the time to listen to what we have to say. I noticed a few familiar faces because I was here the last time that this conference was held, and I'm very pleased to start off the presentation by telling you that the last time I came was the first time that SIKA Resources was participating in this event, and at that time we were just starting up. I was telling you all the things we're planning to do. We were in the process of reviewing a whole bunch of projects in Tanzania. We were focused on gold in Tanzania, and we had not yet acquired those projects. And I did say to you that we were narrowing them down, and the plan was to go and acquire the best projects that we thought we could get in Tanzania, do the site visits, pay for those projects, and also initiate a 43-101 report. And I'm pleased to announce that all of those things have now been done. We have acquired 4 projects that I'm going to be talking about today. We've got our 43-101 report intact, complete with title opinions, and we own the projects 100%. We purchased all of them. There are no vendor royalties, and we do not have any local partners. So what we have now are 4 highly prospective projects in a very stable jurisdiction. I think you've heard other people speak of Tanzania, and I think a number of you in the room are quite familiar with Tanzania as well. SIKA has an extremely experienced management team and a technical team that's been around. They've discovered mines. We have found ounces. We're very focused on finding ounces. So any drilling we do is focused on adding value to the projects. We have a professional team. We have broad African experience. I personally have been working in Africa for over 25 years. Our whole team has been in Africa for at least that long. And they know exploration in Tanzania. They've been working in Tanzania specifically for quite some time as well. There's an opportunity for everyone here to get involved on the ground level. The stock is at 5 cents right now because we're starting up. We've got a plan which I'll talk about that's going to move that stock from 5% to most likely around 25% by the end of the year, from 5 cents to 25 cents by the end of this year is the plan, based on what I'm going to be telling you the various steps are. And as I mentioned, the 43-101 report is on all the 4 properties that we hold. The company is a Canadian junior. It actually was started in 1996, and it started off in Zimbabwe, Ghana, and Tanzania. And then we developed one Tanzania project quite quickly, and it had a lot of potential. So we spun out that one project into a company called Midlands Minerals, which we then took public and listed it on the TSX Venture. That company was taken over on June 30th in a very hostile proxy boardroom fight at the annual meeting where there was an ambush, and that's history. But some of you might have seen me here presenting on behalf of Midlands. But that company was a product of SIKA, and it was taken away, as I said, by basically some cowboys. And so we're back to the original. That's the mother company, the parent company, with a lot of experience, established in 1996 under the Ontario Business Corporations Act. It has experience in Ghana, Tanzania, and also in South Africa, Zimbabwe. We have a strong, broad, in-depth knowledge of Tanzania specifically. We know the people that actually wrote the Mining Act in Tanzania. That's one of the things that gives us a very high comfort index, because one of the things we look for in these countries, in the business we're in, is the issues related to tenure, security of your licenses. You don't want a government that's going to immediately develop a high interest in your project because you're getting good results. Tanzania has a history of mines that have been there for a long, long time, like Anglo Gold Ashanti. They have over 33 million ounces, so if the government wanted to nationalize them, they would have done that a long time ago, because Anglo Gold is still drilling, so they're left alone. And actually the opposite of what one would look at, Tanzania uses Anglo Gold Ashanti to market its mining sector by showing the world that we've got big mining companies here that are growing in Tanzania, so there's no threat of having your licenses revoked. So if we're looking at Tanzania now and its neighbors, let's talk about risk, because I think in a number of presentations here we're touching on that subject. And I know when people hear Africa, risk is usually one of the things that you're also looking at. But if you look at where we are in Tanzania there and why we selected Tanzania, we are over there. Our neighbors to the left there, that's the DRC, one of the richest countries in the world as far as resources go. Then you've got Angola down there, which is another country that is absolutely wealthy when it comes to all kinds of minerals. Well, we're not in Angola, we're not in the DRC, because we consider ourselves to be too small to handle the kind of risk that would be involved in those kinds of ventures. So larger companies with deeper pockets can go to those markets. We're in Tanzania because it is a stable country. We're looking at the activity of the major companies there. There's been over $7 billion invested in Tanzania in the mining sector alone. And this money is coming from major companies. They're reinvesting. They're planning to commission 4 new mines in the next 3 years. A lot of them are in minerals that no one ever considered would be in Tanzania because no one was looking for them. And also because Tanzania is fairly new in the whole exploration mining business. It was a socialist country before, as you recall. So their mining history is not that long. It's not like Ghana where they've been at it for 200 years. So it's new in that area, but it's friendly to investors. We look for the orientation of the government. In Tanzania, it's a Western-oriented government. We look at their financial systems. We understand them because the banks are the same banks we use. We look at the legal system in case you get into trouble somewhere along the way. It's common law, and we understand their law. We look at their Mining Act to see, what are the rules around tenure and licenses, renewals, and those kinds of things to make sure you don't get tripped. Their Mining Act was written by Canadians. So it's a friendly place for us to be, and the barometer we use is the major mining companies and what activity is going on with them and to what extent they're increasing their investments. Tanzania itself is a highly prospective country. It's barely explored. When you get a piece of ground in Tanzania, if you have the money, check for all elements because you don't know what you have. It's not like other countries where they give you a gold license or a diamond license. In Tanzania, you have no idea. So that's why companies are finding metals, cobalt where they didn't expect it. They were looking for gold. And now they're into, I'll show you on another map there where some of these new mines are going to be commissioned, adding base metals to the Tanzania map. But they have a number of greenstone belts where a lot of the activity has been concentrated because we've been concentrating primarily on gold, which is associated with the greenstone belts. So on that map, you'll see, like the strategy we used when I was here last time, I was saying to you, because we're small, we're going to look for gold where others have found gold. We're not going to go into areas that are totally virgin, where you're the one that's going to make the first discovery. So that requires deep pockets to do that. So we decided we would go to the Lake Victoria goldfields up here, where all the mining activities is concentrated. There are huge mines over there, including Geita, Anglo Gold Ashanti with 33 million ounces. You're looking at Barrick with Bulyanhulu over 16 million ounces. We're in the same trend. So that's why we located up there to make sure we have the right neighbors, we're in the right structures, with the right geological orientation in terms of the regional orientation. These are some of the leading gold producers in Tanzania today. And I'll point out Buzwagi, which is this mine here, which is just 25 kilometers north of one of our properties. That's a new mine, and it was only commissioned within the last 2 or 3 years by Barrick. And they've expanded that mine, huge investment, and they're still drilling on Buzwagi. And Buzwagi is particularly interesting to us because it's entirely in granite. And the person who owned it before is someone you might know, Jim Sinclair, who's been working in Tanzania forever. He's Mr. Tanzania, actually, because he's been there for a long, long time. And when he was working on that project, it was called Chocolate Reef. And Chocolate Reef has been on the map for a long time, and no one really took it seriously because it's in the granite. And they were scratching around. A transaction was done with Barrick. They went and explored it properly, and here we are. They're 2.6 million ounces now in reserves. They're mining it, and they're still drilling and hoping to expand their resource. Again, that shows you the activity in Tanzania, the Lake Victoria goldfields. See, all those red dots indicate either mines or gold occurrences. The other area that is quite concentrated is down here. This is where some of the new mines are going to be commissioned. But when you think of the geology of Tanzania and you see that, in fact, they share a border with the DRC, then there's no reason why all those base metals that are in the DRC would suddenly stop at the border with Tanzania. Nobody's been looking for lead, zinc, cobalt, or any other minerals or uranium in Tanzania because there's no mine. And they don't realize that, well, just look at the continuation of the geology. So that's where we are. I think one other company presented earlier today, and I'll just show you where they are in relation to where we are. So Handeni is here in the Kilindi, Handeni area. Where we are is up here. So we're in the same country, slightly different geology. This gives you a closer look at our properties. And what's interesting about our 4 projects, which you can see up there, is these are 2 contiguous ones here. They were previously owned by Barrick. This project also previously owned by Barrick. Buzwagi is 25 kilometers away from us. This project also previously owned by Barrick. The interesting thing about this one is it's got the Jubilee Reef, which is a past producer, which is right neck to neck with us. It's contiguous to us. And that reef is largely visible. It was discovered by the Germans in the late 1800s, and they actually mined it. And at the time it was called Augusta Victoria. So it's got a history, it's got production records, it's got everything. And that reef, if you look at the orientation of the regional geology, going west-northwest, and if that reef is following the same regional geology, then it's got to be going through us. What's interesting about that reef is that we have neighbors who are Australian who are drilling it right now, and I will show you some of their drill results. They're drilling right on the border with us, and that reef is continuous. So there are some very interesting possibilities coming up. So just to summarize again, all the properties we have are in the Lake Victoria goldfields. That's all we want to be where others are participating and producing. All of them are easily accessible. The infrastructure is there because we're right next to huge mines that are established. So we've got the roads, we've got the power, we've got everything there to move us forward. And for us, the fact that all 4 projects that we have were previously owned by Barrick is a plus. That means Barrick knows what we have and they understand all that geology, and they will allow us, of course, to approve the properties up to a point before they come back to look at them again. All of them we're looking at the geology we have and the rocks we have, and as defined by those founded, these producing gold mines were in the same structures. Ntundu is the one that has the Jubilee Reef beside it, and we own it 100%. And it has not been on our side a recipient of any exploration at all. We're going to be starting from grassroots. It's contiguous to the reef, as I said. It's 40 kilometers south of Bulyanhulu on the same structure. We've got all the same banded iron formations there. We've got all the types of rocks that we want to see, that we're seeing elsewhere. And most interestingly is that it's very active with artisanal miners everywhere, and so that's a good sign. These are some of the drill results that our neighbors are getting. It's an Australian company called Liontown Resources, and all those results that you're looking at there are above 100 meters, so it's clearly open pitable. And what I really like about their results is that they're reporting holes that are next to each other. They're not reporting intersections that are 500 meters apart. So here you see a structure because the holes are in a sequence. And you're seeing that the results they're getting are also quite consistent there. The other property we have, we own 100%, is Selenga. That also is very promising. It's sitting in a greenstone belt just south of Bulyanhulu. And then we have the 2 contiguous properties that about 132 square kilometers. We own 100%. And that's the projects, those 2 contiguous ones are 25 kilometers south of Buzwagi. And you can see the Buzwagi mine there. That's Barrick. You can see some of the artisanal activity there and some of the types of rocks that we're seeing and from the Jubilee Reef. And those rocks, we're also finding the same rocks on our side. The company capital structure right now, we are at 19 million shares outstanding. We're trying to raise 500,000 ounces, 500,000 ounces, as well as $500,000. But we are at about 20 million shares outstanding right now. We're doing a financing at 5 cents with 8-cent warrants, and that's only going to be open for a little while longer because we have our 43-101 report now in place. And so I would like, hopefully we can talk after this with some of you. We have a placement meeting going on from 10 to 11 downstairs. And I hope that you will be able to attend and we can give you more details on that. Use of proceeds, what we want to do is we've got a 3-step process for going public. We want to be public by the end of the year, but we don't want to rush into it because of issues related to valuation and dilution. So we would like to raise $500,000 now with a small group of retail people. The minimum investment is $5,000. That gives you 100,000 shares and 100,000 warrants at 8 cents, and the warrants are good for 2 years. The next step that we would like to do is use that money to go and add value on our property, do some geochemistry on that Ntundu project that is next to Jubilee Reef, because we've already signed a CA with the company next door that's drilling the Jubilee Reef. So they're interested in a JV with us. But we would like to do that JV after we've added some value, so we do it on better terms. So that's the first step. We need the $500,000. And to do that initial work, to add value, then conclude a JV with our neighbor, have them spend their money to develop our project. The next step after that is we already have a CA with a company that we're discussing an RTO with, and that company is listed on the TSX Venture Exchange. That company has a 600,000 ounce resource, gold. They have cobalt, copper, and zinc on that same project, and zinc. And it has an amazing address geologically. So that's who we want to do the RTO with. So by the time we go public, we want value inside, and we want the small investors who would have come in at the front end. We don't want retail. We don't want institutional at this stage. We want retail. So we want those people to benefit quickly, and we're seeing all of this happening by the end of the year. So by the time I come back next time, I will be reporting to you on what I've just said we're going to be doing next. And I hope some of you would be participating by then. So just our business commitments to work with the local communities. We're very close to them. We work closely with the government people, but mostly local communities to make sure they're on board. We have a good track record on that. We've been there for a long time. And again, I've talked about Tanzania's merits and what SIKA has to offer. And we're very pleased that you could give us the time to present to you today. Thank you.